Remember, remember, the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plots. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, and welcome to the pod where we chat, argue, and wax poetic about the movies that we love, hate, or that are simply worth talking about. All movies have something to say, and we enjoy trying to analyze what they capture. Welcome to the Chatter After. I am Brandon Alvarado, the Scarlet fan here, and I'm so excited to be back here tonight on this auspicious November the 5th to talk about the one and only film, V for Vendetta. And of course, I'm not doing this by myself. I'm doing with the amazing Chatter After crew. Isak, what is up, man?
Weaving.
I have no idea what that was. And the great
Hugo Weaving, though, I guess.
and the great and amazing Mike Thomas. What's up, dude?
Thank you for having me on this amazing November the 5th. I don't have my mask with me today, unfortunately, but I can't wait to talk about this amazing movie based off of one of the novels of one of my favorite writers. So this should be fun.
Nice. Very, very interesting film. Well done film. Great job by James McTeague. One of the things that surprised me the most is that the screenplay was done by the Wachowski brothers, which a lot of people love their films, but a lot of people talked about how convoluted the Wachowski siblings. Hey, the Wachowskis. Hey.
We got it.
But yes. So, in one take. The screenplay was written by the Wachowskis. A lot of people have criticized them over the years with how convoluted some of their stories can be, even though I love their films. I love Cloud Atlas. I really enjoy Speed Racer. I love the Matrix films, no matter how people feel about them, and they're not perfect films. But this screenplay is amazing, and I can't wait to talk V for Vendetta with my crew. Guys, let's just get right in on it. Let's talk about initial reactions, experiences with V for Vendetta. Do we have any connection to the original source material written by Alan Moore? And I think it was Alan Moore, and I forgot who the artist was. Which, interestingly enough, the artist is the only person. David Lloyd is the only person that's giving credit in the film. But that's Alan Moore does what Alan Moore does. But guys, let's talk V for Vendetta. Amazing film starring Hugo Weaving and Natalie Portman. Isak, I heard you say on Twitter that you rarely own West-made films, but you own V for Vendetta. So, is this film good? Do you love it? Do you enjoy it? Talk to me. V for Vendetta.
I mean, first and foremost, if I'm not mistaken, the reason why Alan Moore isn't credited is because he hated Watchmen, and I can't recall what the other adaptation of his was, to the point that he didn't want to be both credited or get sigils from it.
Watchmen was after this movie, though.
I mean, it's because of Watchmen, and it was some other adaptation. That's what I meant.
What's Mike trying to say is that Alan Moore couldn't have said that he didn't want to be.
Okay, Mandela effect. But anyway,
You're good.
You're
good.
We always get our info wrong, but anyway, when it comes to this movie, there's some parts that have aged, such as the special effects. Yeah, it has aged very poorly in my book. But honestly, in terms of political, thematical, all that sense, knowing what's going on in the real world, especially, the current states of affairs that I'm not going to mention because I don't want this channel to be in danger and all that jazz. is more, how should I say, now more than ever, and I think they push the themes and commentary perfectly. If I'm being completely frank.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So what you love about the film is its dialogue and the themes, right? The commentary.
Yes.
Is what you love the most. Okay. Mike, V for Vendetta. I think you mentioned off air that this is the first time you've seen it?
Right. Yeah. I think I'm the only person here who this was their first watch of V for Vendetta. So yeah, going into this movie, didn't know what to expect. I knew it was based off of Alan Moore's work. And I think going in, again, knowing a lot of Alan Moore's work, going into this movie, I think that kind of hampered my enjoyment of it just a little bit. I think it's a good movie, a well-made movie, but it didn't feel like an Alan Moore story. And the more I kind of looked into it and read about it, I understood why. It's a very, it's got the appearance of being like very politically deep, right? There's a lot, it's got the appearance of having a lot of depth to the story, but at the end of the day, it's still good guys versus bad guys. Whereas Moore's writing style usually has a lot more shades of gray to it. You know, like we have V, and from what I can tell from the graphic novel, which I haven't read, this is just from research, is that he's a more again, gray character as opposed to this one. He says his methods are a bit harsh, and we do see him murdering a lot of people. But the movie goes out of their way to show that the people he's killing are in fact corrupt and bad people, whereas in the novel, apparently there's still a little more depth to the villains, the antagonists of this story. So when you have this revolution idea come to a head, it's more who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. Anarchy isn't good for anyone, whereas in this one it's more Star Wars-y, where you're rooting for the rebels because they're fighting against fascism, essentially, right? And to me, it's like, okay, I've seen this story a million times. What makes V for Vendetta special? And again, knowing Moore's writing style, it's like, because in his vision of the novel, and that's why he doesn't really, he has seen this movie. To kind of push back on what Isak was saying earlier, this is one of the few adaptations he did watch, and he straight up said they kind of missed the point of the book. Because everything is a little too black and white, where it is morally gray in the story between V and the powers he's fighting against. In a sense, so again, the movie is well made, the story is fine, the screenplay is fine. It's just, again, another battle of good versus evil, or underdogs trying to rise up against this powerful force that I've seen a million times.
It's not as unique as maybe Alan Moore set it out to be in the original book, as opposed to what they've done here to make it more plausible, more accessible to
that's the perfect way
everybody
to say
else.
it, right? They made it a lot more accessible. It's not really a challenging story like Watchmen would be, for example.
So would you say, before I give my take, would you say that maybe Watchmen, in spite of what people have talked about, right? Watchmen probably keeps more of the integral parts of Alan Moore's discussion, or at least the show, for example, as opposed to this film and what you've heard?
The show, 100%, Zack Snyder's movie, it still kind of approaches it from a mainstream superhero perspective, which is why I don't really enjoy Snyder's Watchmen. But again, that could just be the studio saying, we need to make this accessible to a larger audience, whereas Moore's novels were more like think pieces, right? It's his ideas, and you either agree, disagree, or you come away indifferent. That's why I enjoy him as a writer, right? You don't have to agree with anything he says. In fact, I disagree with 90% of the things Alan Moore says. but it's still thought-provoking in a way that I don't think V for Vendetta or the Watchmen movie necessarily were. The HBO series, though, I think is a much better representation of his writing style and what he was trying to say with the Watchmen story.
Cool. I like what I enjoyed from this film. I haven't read the novel. I started reading the novel because I wanted to try and read it before I recorded. But at least in the novel, as soon as you start writing it, you can feel the age in it. I mean, It was written in the 80s. So I do appreciate that there was a lot of wise modernization of the period where this film takes place, because it does feel like it's taking place far into the future, right? As opposed to not like Back to the Future, far into the future, but far into the future in comparison to where the book is.
Like a good 20 years or so, maybe. Yeah.
Right. I do like what I like about the film the most, which is kind of like beyond the good and evil part, beyond what probably they've trimmed down from the book, which I'll find out once I read it. But I do like the theme of the power of ideas.
Yeah.
And what happens when an idea sinks its teeth into you, and you allow it take hold. And how as human beings, we are the ones that allow what idea is gonna take hold of us. Like, and we either allow that by being courageous, or by choosing to be courageous and taking that idea by force and being it, which is what V symbolizes, right? Because he has this idea of freedom against fascism and bringing back London to what real humanity should look like, as opposed to because of fear of the Republic or whatever the Fingermen or whatever the organization is, right? Because of fear, the people of London have decided to they're okay being cattle in a cage. Like, they live in concentration camps without them being concentration camps, because they live coddled in fear. And so they choose to just remain alive as opposed to actually live. But again, that all goes from the idea that the High Chancellor and his people have sown into the brains of the people, and the idea and the fact that ideas are the ones that are the cause of this. So I think that of all the different themes that they could have tried to explore, I think that's the one that rings the most clear, and that's the one that I would say is the most interesting.
It's the main theme from the book, which is why I can't sit here and say it's a completely improper adaptation, because the central idea is present in this movie, which is all anybody can really ask for. It's just getting there is vastly different, which is why I'm kind of like, okay, I wish we could have done it slightly differently, but the end goal, the end message is still the same. So you can't really be too upset about it, unless you're Adam Moore, who's upset about everything.
I mean, he doesn't want people. He don't wants people to touch anything he does.
And
he's done really weird. He's done a lot of weird stuff, but a lot of great stuff too.
I was just gonna say, isn't he like a hermit that gone away from society because he hates everything?
The only adaptation he approved and actually liked, and you guys should check it out because it is the best adaptation of his work, is For the Man Who Has Everything, which is an episode of Justice League Unlimited.
Interesting.
That he's like, that is the only adaptation that is worth anything. It is perfect.
Which episode is that?
Wow.
Is that the one about the flashback with Batman?
That is when Mongol attaches the Black Mercy to Superman on his birthday, and it's up to Batman and Wonder Woman to rescue him. In the comic book, Jason Todd is there too, but the show didn't do that. I'll get the episode number for you guys in a sec.
Cool, I gotta watch it now. That's a very deep cut. Like, he actually sees everything. He's like, this is the one.
Season 1, episode 2, Justice League Unlimited. It's on HBO Max as of right now.
Oh, cool. Alan Moore is giving props to something. That's.
Hey, if you're gonna give props, JLU's a pretty good one.
don't think
I mean, we all grew up. Grew up with that in the West. So,
not
Isaac,
me.
what do you? But you can watch it now. So Isaac, what do you think about the characters, or at least the exploration of ideas, in this film?
I was just gonna ask Mike, sort of like, it contains with my. Before I can go into that one, because I'm a little curious.
Okay.
If you were able to do some form of single, if you feel that there is something that's missing with the movie, what would you tweak with a script, if I might ask?
Ooh, that's a deep question. I didn't come prepared to rewrite the movie. But again, no, I'm not saying that it's a bad movie or a bad script. It just, for the type
No.
of...
I'm not saying
No.
that you. I'm not saying that you are doing. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Due to your comments.
Yeah, I understand. It's just with the character of V, they're portraying him as this anarchist, anti-hero type figure, but with the way the story and the narrative push V, it makes him more like Batman in a way, right? Where it's like, yeah, he's doing methods.
You know, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's doing illegal things, because Batman, being a vigilante, technically makes him a criminal, but he's doing it for a righteous cause, and eventually the ends justify the means. And I feel like we should have, again, had some more moments where maybe V does the wrong thing. Maybe V kills an innocent person. You know, like something to add a little more to that character, because he just feels like, at the end of the day, a normal vigilante. Like, again, I haven't, again, just stressing, I haven't read the novel, but I know how the novel ends, and it's drastically different from how this movie ends. And I think that just speaks to why they made the changes that they did. Do you guys want me to spoil the ending of the novel V for Vendetta?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think that would be very interesting, especially because I have something else to add later. But that would be interesting because that way we don't go around like, okay, well, what's different? What's different?
Just put this timestamp for those that. Just put this timestamp for when the spoiler is over for those that want to read it.
Spoilers for a novel that's almost 40 years old.
Yeah, I was just saying just in case, buddy.
I'm joshing you, sir. Go ahead, Mike.
So at the end of the film, V causes the explosion, right? Or the explosion happens. And at the end of the movie, we see the masses wearing their masks, and they start pulling them off, and a revolution has begun, essentially. In the novel, the explosion happens, and that final scene is not there. We don't know what the outcome is. And I feel like that, again, is showing this world of everything V did was for a purpose, but we don't even know if that purpose, or if that actually pays off. And I think that, again, just shows that it's not saying what V is doing is right, or if he's a morally just character, but he has a goal in mind. He's going to do it regardless of what happens. Whereas this one is like when the rebels blow up the Death Star, in a way, where it's like, we have a small victory for the rebels, for this revolution, and we're looking for a brighter future, where the novel ends in a place where it's like, does it make a difference? Does it not? Does that mean we should stop fighting for the causes we want to? It's, again, just a more nuanced and layered type of story. Again, as somebody who hasn't actually read the book for himself, I can't say whether it pays off or not. But watching the movie, these are just the thoughts that I had, not even knowing about the book. Because I'm sitting there like, okay, this is just a run-of-the-mill superhero story, which is fine. You guys know how much I love my superheroes. But for this to be a Vertigo-esque comic, for this to be an Alan Moore story, it felt very by the numbers. Which...
I want to see...
But to Isaac's original question of things I would change, I would make more sympathetic villains. Like, we can have the High Chancellor still be a dick. That's fine. But, like, the people under him, maybe give them a little more personality, because the cause V is fighting for is kind of faceless to me. And then it's just, again, I have no connection. I have a connection to V and to Evey. That's it. So I kind of wish we spent more time developing the force they were fighting, and even adding elements of, well, is V just a crazy maniac? Because the movie tries to hint at it, but at least for me, I never really felt that from his character. Maybe I'm just used to seeing a bunch of crazy maniacs fighting evil.
I want to see
Stop quoting Mystery Men.
Now I want to see a Netflix or HBO miniseries adaptation of this, mostly.
It's funny that you say that, Isaac, because I wonder if a lot of the things that you're pointing out or bringing to the discussion, Mike, maybe they could have been addressed in a format or in a long form adaptation. And I go back to defend the film in the sense of the fact that they saw all those running themes or possibilities, but they focused on one, and that one that they did was good. Now, interestingly enough, I get where you're coming from, where them taking off their mask is supposed to feel like, okay, everything's going to change now, right?
Right.
But personally, I kind of feel that it really doesn't say anything, really, because it gives you that illusion. But at the end of the day, it's all about whether or not they're going to make that choice. So we know they made the choice of showing up, but are they going to keep moving towards that future, right? You do not get like that close-ended happy ending. You get maybe that hopeful ending. Maybe they added that little bit of hope to kind of say that V's message meant something, right? But what I found very interesting, especially cinematography-wise, and is how media was a very big character in the film.
Yeah.
Of course, most political thrillers nowadays, media has to be an element in your film, one way, shape, or another, right? But the idea that media is the way that everybody consumes information and everybody allows themselves to believe what's true. No one's researching anything. Everybody's just eating up whatever's presented. And it's not till V attacks the news station and puts out that video that people start questioning. And the fact that people start questioning is kind of like the point of the film, because if you understand, or not understand, but one of the running gags throughout the whole film is those scenes of people watching TV in the bar, the family, which we see the same family over and over again watching TV. We see all the senior citizens in the nursing home watching TV. And their reactions are lively, are particular. At first, they're all scared because they have no idea what's going on. Oh my God, it's a terrorist. So they're like listening to everything in the wake of the fear that the High Chancellor and his party has sown into the world. But as soon as after what they see what V does, and they start saying the news, you see the little kid that goes, bollocks. Like, this is bullshit. Like, I like that silent but precise progress of those gears turning on these people. And I love the imagery of that's how the society's processing everything. But then you have Evey's character, which...
Can we just talk about how great Natalie Portman is in this movie, by the way?
And nailing the accent with no issues.
Phenomenal.
Or at least yeah. I mean, Natalie Portman is amazing, period.
Yeah.
I can't speak for the latest Thor movie because I haven't seen it, but some of the Dark World, have she really, what's it called? Just done a role for a paycheck kind of acting?
I would. Well, she's teaching a lot now. I think that's the thing.
I mean, if we're talking about bad Natalie Portman performances, the prequels aren't great, but you know,
she's a kid there, so you can.
It paid for college.
Yeah. But
also, she's
honestly,
the best part of Love and Thunder. To answer your question there, Isaac. So yeah.
Not gonna. I can. I can believe you in that. I can believe you. Sorry, that's not wrong. I do believe you. Knowing what I've seen, but anyway, I actually think, looking back at what you guys are thinking, I think you. Now I want to read a novel, even with the ending in mind. Honestly,
yeah.
When I say in mind, I know now that I know what's happened.
Yeah.
Also, I do agree with Mike that quote-unquote villains is a bit bare bones. Is that the right terms?
Bare bones, yeah. They're very one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Which is in service to the story, and I want to harp on, because I know I've been talking about my issues with the movie. I think it's a good movie. It's just not what I necessarily wanted from it. So the villains are serviceable for this story, even though I wanted more from them.
Yeah, here's what
I think it's safe to say, and not to cut you off, Isaac, that the villains are what the story needs.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they're in service of what they're trying. They're in service of the themes of the movie. So, like, because the villains are not the villains. The villains are what the villains are trying to push into society. That inadequacy, that lack of action, that succumbing to fear, and sacrificing freedom for complacency. That's the villain. You know.
Yeah.
So it's very abstract. It's very hard to make a physical manifestation of that. You know.
Exactly, which makes me, and because I do feel that if they had put more emphasis on the villain, this might not have had the same effect, because the sort of, like, how should I put it? The main villain wasn't the people people in charge. It was the party as a whole.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. So it would be a hard time sort of skim it out. You give the underlings to the dictator some bit more screen time, which is why I go back to the whole. Would like to see Netflix or HBO get a shot at it. Maybe a mini series of 8 to 10 episodes. You can do a more fleshed out version.
Yeah.
Because to speak about media is honestly the reason why I feel that this movie has aged as well as it done. Because just look at how people are reacting to social media or media in general, and some people are on the exactly. People are consuming it sort of like that. Some people are just going to take the word for granted from X amount of people just because they like what they say or something, or insert reason here.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Mike, I just want to say that if I have sounded like a douchebag or something, I want to apologize for that.
No, not at all. No apology necessary.
All is good. Whatever you've heard, fake news. Okay.
Fake news.
So let's talk about the meaning of the word vendetta. Has anybody actually taken the time to dig up the meaning of this word?
Well,
I have it here. I have it here.
Okay.
No, I have it here, which is why I bring it up. So the actual meaning of vendetta, I'm going to read it because I'm lazy. A blood feud in which the family of a murdered person seeks vengeance on the murderer or the murderer's family. So it's very, very, very derivative what we see in the story, because it's all about justice and injustice, right?
Yeah.
And like, so V doesn't, that we know of, right? V doesn't have any familial connection to anybody that's gone through this, but he's kind of like choosing to view the people of London as his family, or like your fellow kin as your family in terms of society, right? Like, there's no healthy society if you're not taking care of your neighbor, right? It's that kind of familiarity, or at least that kind of protection, or that seal, right? Now we do see that kind of story with Evey's character, with Natalie Portman's character, which it's interesting that when the whole detox thing, which, by the way, in regards to power of ideas, that whole thing that she needed to detox herself from all the fear that was fed to her through the years, all the fear that she was raised with all the experiences that happened with her parents, all of that she had to detoxify from it. And the only way she can detoxify from it is by confronting the truth and accepting the truth, and not allowing anybody to tell her that what happened. You know what I mean? Like she's been convinced that things happen for a different reason, but but once the truth came out, she had to confront that anger, that hatred, and she chooses not to be violent, which is, I think, is very particular based on the name of the book.
Yes.
Like, because she deliberately chooses not to do a vendetta. She chooses not to do what V does. So it puts her in direct relation and in direct contrast with the character of V. Because V feels in his bones that the only way he can fix the world that wronged him and the people of London is by doing what he's doing. That's the only option that he sees viable. And we don't know who he knows. I mean, we know that he knew Valerie, which is the actress director that was caught in the Larkhill Institute. We know that he knew of her because that's why he has the story. But we don't see that he's connected to anybody. And I just find it fascinating how it also presents in these two characters. There's two different ways of going about this. You either choose to recognize what happened and try and just live your life and be better, or you choose to recognize what happened and fight back. But you can't really say that either of them is a bad choice.
It reminds me of Attack on Titan in a way.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Yeah. And it's
the creator is an Alan Moore fan.
I wouldn't be surprised because of all the political and psychological hoops these characters have to go through the whole series of Attack on Titan. Plug for the Amateur Otaku right here.
Check it out.
It's awesome. But yeah, like I find it interesting that the person that's representing. So it goes back to the idea you mentioned, Batman, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because I actually wrote a note. Alan Moore's Batman. Like, I actually wrote that on my notes. I have it because I thought about it. But the idea of Batman but the Christopher Nolan version of Batman, that the point of Batman or Nolan's trilogy is not that Batman is a hero. Mm-hmm. Batman is a symbol of doing the right thing to protect and free Gotham, right? That's the purpose of the cape, which is why it is something that can be carried from generation to generation, again, that's one of the reasons why I love The Dark Knight Rises, because of the idea of passing the torch to pseudo Dick Grayson, right? And it's funny, a lot of people say that those Spiral years are kind of crazy, but hey, he was a cop. So hey, it's a deep cut.
It's a deep cut. I will just never forgive Nolan for just not going. Just name him Richard Grayson. What is this John Blake nonsense? Just do it.
Wanted to do a quote unquote fun twist for the audience.
The name him Tim Drake. Nobody would have saw that coming.
No, but you know what's funny? It's
enough.
interesting. It's interesting enough. You know why the name makes sense and the whole mystery makes sense? Because then he didn't have to deal with the whole Flying Grayson's backstory. Make him an orphan. Just use that as the connection.
I guess my pushback is the age we follow up with this character. You can just say that happened. And instead of getting adopted by Bruce, he goes to an orphanage at the end.
Oh, we need to hear Bane.
But yeah, I love the Dark Knight Rises. That'll just forever kind of irk me.
I can just see Bane in the stadium. We need to get Harley for my pasta maker.
I just want my pasta maker. That is such a great running joke in Harley Quinn.
So good. So
Clapping out a hand.
When he calls his therapist in the concert. Okay, so again, Harley Quinn. It's one of the best animated shows ever made. Shouts out to Kaylee Cuoco. So great. Okay, back to V for Vendetta.
Yes.
Symbols, masks. So I like the fact that the whole point of V, right? Because the whole point of Evey is a character, a person that is dealing with this, everything, right?
Yeah.
But the whole thing with V is that he chooses to not be a person. He chooses not to be a man. He chooses to find a way to be the embodiment of this idea of righteousness, justice, anarchy, whatever it is. Like, he chooses to be the blight needed to destroy fascism, or to actually get people to do something, which to me is it's interesting, because and that's why I like the character.
That's why he has the Guy Fawkes mask, right? Because he's not even human. He just has a perma smile on his face.
Right.
Can't see his eyes. He's a symbol now. He's no longer a man.
Right.
Hugo Weaving's cool,
by the way, he's had a blast making this movie. You can tell. It's like peak Hugo. Like, Hugo is just great.
Did he just do the voiceover, or was he actually in the suit? I couldn't confirm that.
I think he's in the suit. I mean, I would say that maybe he didn't do... Well, here's the thing, though. He does most of his stunts in The Matrix. So I don't see why he wouldn't. You know what I mean? I mean, because think about this. Lord of the Rings is what? 2002?
2000, yeah, like the beginning of the 2000s.
Right? So he's still young, because The Matrix was 99. This is 2006. It was probably filmed in 2004, 5-ish. Mm-hmm. So he's still at that age where he can... I mean, Matrix Revolutions hasn't come out, right? Because Matrix Revolutions is not till like 7 or 8, I think. Because I know the sequel came out like 5 or 6 years after the original Matrix. So Hugo is at peak physical condition. So I don't see why... I keep saying peak. I'm sorry. It's Isaac's fault. But Hugo Weaving's having a... Well, you know. Hugo Weaving's having a blast. He's amazing. I love that he's able to admit so much personality, and we never see his face.
Never.
And it's funny, even in the moment where he's wearing makeup, we still don't see his face. Like when he dresses up at that guy in that like dark scene or whatever.
Yeah.
I find it brilliant. Especially when the first time we find him in the Shadow Gallery, he has the apron, and it's just hilarious.
In the mask, we never see him eat either. It is just is some comedy right there.
Yeah, it's great. It's just so great.
Yeah.
Now I do also like to point out the fact that the movie goes out of its way to kind of, and also the character himself, like. you see little senses of humanity, but he also tries to find ways to not remind himself that he's human, because he's forcing himself to be an idea. So I like the internal struggle that he presents, that we see, especially when we're starting to fall for Evey or whatever. I love the running gag of the Count of Monte Cristo. It's very simple writing, but it's the kind of writing that makes me smile. Like when you know that they're starting to tease this relationship, and then he's talking to Evey at the end by the train, goes like, "I'm sorry, Evey, I cannot do this. At the end, there is no tree for me," which is a tag to the Count of Monte Cristo, which we've seen the ending at least 3 times now. Which apparently we have to cover Count of Monte Cristo now, right? But can we do the Jim Caviezel version, because it's still very good? But yes, I love V. Did you guys catch that you can tell that V is the one that takes her when they're escaping Gabriel's house?
Isaac, did you catch anything?
First off, no, I did not a second. Is it weird to say that this is my favorite Hugo Weaving performance?
It is safe to say I don't see why not.
I mean, I've loved almost all of his performances. I can't sit here and say that this is definitively the best, but I also can't give you a reason why anything else would be better. So they're all at the same level for me.
I think this one and Mr. Anderson are like are top weaving. Now
Red Skull Weaving's kind of hammy, but he's fun too.
Who?
Red Skull.
Oh, he's great. Phenomenal. Had Captain, you and I are the same. Soulstone Hugo, but that's not Hugo. That's someone else. That's the guy from Walking Dead. Which, by the way, great impressions. So in the scene where Natalie Portman jumps out of the window, and she supposedly gets captured by the fingerman, the fingerman that grabs her, you can see that the wrist is red, and the eye covers is red like burned. So you know that's V. It's a very, very particular detail.
Yeah.
But it's the kind of detail that makes you go,
blink and you miss it.
You did the thing.
Yeah. That's why it's like this is such a well-made and well-constructed film, right? Because they thought of everything. And even, again, the complaints that I have about it, there's a reason why the movie is the way
it's thought about, yeah.
Right, because it's not like they ignored these elements of the book. They just said, for the story we want to tell, we're going to focus on this specific beat, and we're going to just do away with some of these other ones. And we're going to make this one really shine. Which is why, again, it's a complaint, sure, because I wish the movie could have been stronger in one area. But as far as what they wanted to do and the story they wanted to tell, it is a pretty good film. It is an amazing, amazing movie in that regard.
Favorite scenes, Isaac?
Boy, you caught me with the pants down on that question.
I mean, we ask this question almost every podcast.
I know, but sure, but this is a movie that is a hard time choosing a favorite scene of mine, and which is I didn't really think about that when I watched it, but if I had to choose one on the top of my head, it's probably the news when he had his newscast, just to see people's reaction.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, can we talk about how John Hurt had a great time making this movie too? Apparently, he's so good at yelling at things.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, may he rest in peace. He's perfect in this movie.
Yep.
For sure.
And Andrew Ray was great too. The one that plays Finch. He's very good as well. I love how he plays like the beat down cop, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of very traditionally British. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So that was great.
Yeah, I also love Rupert Graves in this movie, simply because he's playing the exact same character he plays in Sherlock years later, which I just find kind of funny.
Rupert Graves, is that the one that plays the inspector in Sherlock?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the Robert Downey Jr. one.
No, this is the Benedict Cumberbatch series, BBC.
He plays. Wait, so is Rupert Graves the one that plays the assistant to Finch?
Yes.
Oh yeah. He plays.
And so in Sherlock, it's like it's pretty much the same role. He's assisting Sherlock because he's always like 5 steps behind him in Watson. It's just kind of funny. It's like he's playing the same character.
It's funny you say that. I'm actually getting back on track with Elementary, which, by the way, very good show.
There's a lot of good Sherlock adaptations, surprisingly.
Yes, I can't wait for that Sherlock Holmes 3.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Stephen Fry.
Whoa, Stephen Fry, he's great in everything he does. So,
yeah.
We just saw him as Fiddler's Green, and he was still amazing. So, hey, Stephen Fry. Now, so Mike, do you have a favorite scene or moment?
Oh, that, like Isaac said, it's kind of hard to narrow down. I guess for me, the one that stands out the most is when we first meet V, right? When he jumps in and he rescues Evey, because he's such a peculiar character. And we've seen this scene a million times. Ninja Turtles jump in to save April O'Neil. Batman jumps in to save a civilian. We've seen it a bunch. Daredevil's in an alley fighting crime every other day. But what made this scene unique is seeing the personality of V. And like, okay, this guy's a little off his rocker. Where does this go? And like the intrigue, even Evey is just like, okay, he saved me, but now he's scaring me. Where are we going to? Where is this character going to go? Is he now a threat to her? I thought, again, going in blind, not knowing anything about this movie, I just thought that was a really fascinating character introductions. If you guys pay attention to all of these episodes we record, you notice that character introductions are kind of my thing, and I bring them up every single episode. But I just thought that was a great intro to V. I kind of wish we leaned a little bit more into his chaotic nature a little bit, but yeah, that's the one that kind of sticks out for me.
Yeah, it's what I love about that introduction is the way that he deliberately decides, okay, everything I'm gonna. Which, by the way, I read at least the first 20 pages of the book, so I know how he saves Evey, and the whole dialogue that we have here, where he talks all V's. That doesn't happen in the book. Maybe it happens further along, but I found that to be very interesting and brilliant because what other way to show that this guy's kind of nuts than to do it that way? It's just brilliant. And again, Hugo Weaving had to remember this and find ways to make this interesting. And if anybody can make this interesting, hilarious, in particular, and awesome, is Hugo Weaving.
It
again,
was
peak Hugo.
Yes, peak Hugo.
Yeah. So mine takes place in another alleyway kind of scenario. It's not much of a moment, it's much of a line. Because it's like we've seen badass characters, right? Mm-hmm. But V is a badass character because he's super crazy or super simple at the same time. So when he says all you have, when the finger treaty says, well, all you have is your, I'm very bad at accents. Well, all you have is your fancy knives and karate bollocks. And he goes like, yes, and all you have is guns and the hope that once you finish firing them, I'll be down. Because if not, I will kill you all before you reload. And when he says that, you're like,
yeah.
Shit.
That's a boss.
And then you got, it's like, no, and then he does it.
Yeah.
But the greatest thing for me is not only that he does it, is that he actually dies after. So it's it kind of like So so embodying the idea kills the man. But again, how he can push his body beyond the limit because he decides to become that idea. So I like how it drives home those points. And it's just awesome.
Yeah.
So great.
So great. Fun time.
I don't know, guys. V for Vendetta is awesome. I think we all have to. You know what we should do? We should all read the book and come back and talk about it. That's what I think we should do.
If I can find it for a cheap buck, then sure.
Isaac's like, if it's in the bargain bin, yes. Anything over $5, not here, fam.
Just
But yeah.
say that it has come to the point that manga is easier to get a hold on than the Western comic.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't know what it's like in Sweden, but that seems very, very strange to me. But hey, I believe you. But yeah, I'm always a fan of a book club where we pick a book and come back. So those are fun.
Yeah. Awesome. So guys, V for Vendetta. Final thoughts? Isaac?
Love it.
Mike?
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's definitely worth checking out on HBO Max. I think that's where it's streaming right now, so you can check it out there. Again, if you are interested in V for Vendetta, check out more of Alan Moore's work. May not be the best person, but he's a really good writer, so check out Watchmen. All of the adaptations of Watchmen, and that HBO series is a banger. But this is just, again, a long line of fantastic adaptations that Alan Moore hates. So, check them out.
I love V for Vendetta. I love what it tries to do. And I gotta say, to me, it's great because the performances are great. And I think that's one of those things, like, maybe if the performances weren't as great as they are, we maybe wouldn't be talking about this film the way we are. Because when you have a character like V that it's all not there, really, physically and mentally, that performance makes that character, and that's why I love it. It's great.
It's one of those things where if this wasn't Hugo Weaving and Natalie Portman, I don't know how well this movie would have worked.
Yep. That's the Mapples. Guys, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Shatter After podcast, part of the Novice Cinephile Network. We love talking movies every 2 weeks. We got great stuff coming. We got Train to... you probably go back to our playlist. You'll be able to check out. We've done stuff on Constantine. We've done stuff on Blade Runner. We've done The Godfather. We've done The Last of Us Part 1. We've done Train to Busan. We've done Shawshank Redemption, The Sandman. We've done a lot of stuff on the channel. So go check it out and enjoy it. It's on our podcast channel on Spotify, where our podcasts are found, and also in the Novice Cinephile Network. Isaac, if people wanted to find you in the webs, where can they find you?
Well, you can find my work at Woman Entertainment, and you can find me at Emblomaniac on Twitter.
Mike Thomas, if people need to find you, where can they find you?
YouTube.com/NoviceCinephile and at Novice Cinephile on Letterboxd, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at The Novice Cinephile. We are just having a lot of fun here at the Chatter After. We've got 2 bonus episodes. You guys only get like 2 a month. You're going to be getting like 4 this month. So look out for Black Panther and Wakanda Forever. Those are going to be special. Make sure you stay tuned for those.
This is amazing. So you can find me at the Scarlet Fan 52 on Twitter or on Instagram. Have it awesome. Keep watching movies. Peace.